Hey everybody, my thing was muted. Y'all know me. Y'all know I'm a little silly, little blonde sometimes, like literally. But hey, it's Zip Mouth. I'm back. I'm back from being sick, and I feel good. I feel good. I really do feel good. Um, so this is the first show back, and I have a guest. I bet y'all thought I wasn't gonna have a guest, but I have a guest. So I'm gonna bring him up in a second. I just want to temperature check and see how everybody's been doing. What has everybody been doing? Did y'all miss me? And I'm trying to shed a live at the same time on my personal page while I'm on here. Trying to shed a live real quick because we have an awesome guest. And y'all probably saw his picture before because I did. We were supposed to have a show, but then we had to cancel the show. And I think one time I had to cancel, then one time he had to cancel. So, but he's here now, so we excited. We are excited, and this is going to be a great show. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Nicholas Mays, author Mays. Um, I'm gonna let him tell his own story. I ain't gonna tell y'all his business. I'm gonna let him tell his own business. So hello.
Hey, how are
How
you
you,
doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Welcome to Zip Mouth Motivation Podcast.
Thank you.
So I think mine is lagging just a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure. So I introduced your name and I told him you was an author, and you can tell him all your other top secret stuff, information, whatever it is. I'm gonna just sit back and relax. But where are you from? Let's start with that.
From Flint, Michigan,
Flint.
and I still reside in Flint, Michigan. I actually left in 2013, moved to Georgia.
Okay.
I wanted to go where it's a little bit warmer, so
Right.
I lived there for almost 5 years, and eventually came back home. So
Okay.
still Flint, Michigan.
Okay. How's the weather there? Is it cool there? What's the weather
It's
like?
it's cooled down, but right now it's up and down. Like it'll be like in the high 60s, and then next thing you know, it's in the upper 70s. So
Okay.
it's bouncing back and forth since we're going into the fall season.
Fall season. Yeah, y'all get seasons. We don't get seasons in Florida. We just get hot.
Wow.
So you get hot or you get rain. Like those are the
Oh,
seasons right there. Which one you want? Hot, rain. So
right.
and the seasons will change from day to day. So it's nothing real stable. So you got a book that you just you actually the first book that we were going to talk about is two different ones. So you got a couple of books that you wrote, and
Yes.
you're going into a direction. But what made you decide like I'm gonna be an author? Like I'm gonna start writing books.
Actually, it all began in my preteens. I'll say that it goes back that far. I actually I just had an interest in writing. Like I always had a strong imagination. I
Right,
would sit back and ideas would come to me as a young
right,
child. In my early stages, I'm sitting
right.
back having a lot of ideas come to me. So one day I thought about writing a story. I wrote a horror story,
Okay,
and I was around 12 or 13. I wrote a horror story to see what I could come up with. After
right,
I wrote my horror story, the first people I went to was my parents, because I'm happy. I'm like, let me see what they think about this. Let me see, So I showed it to my father, and
right.
then my father looked at it, and I guess you reading it like, why is my son talking about killing? And so he didn't show like he was excited, but he just gave a look and said, okay, good job. Because my father's always been that type. He encourages anything that you're working towards. You're trying to do something better with your life, he'll always encourage you. But it
Exactly.
wasn't no huge like, oh, you did a great job. He's like, oh, okay, good job. He gave it to me. I took it to my mother. I love this about my mother. She's raw and uncut. So
Right.
when I took the story to her, she got mad. Like, why is my kid writing something like this? So,
That's what I was like. I
right.
can imagine how that was about to go.
So when I got that response, it showed something to me. Like, if I get that type of response, I must be writing something.
Right.
But I was still young, so I didn't really take it much further. It wasn't until 2011.
Uh huh.
I'll say 2010, because it came out in 2011.
Right.
I decided to start writing again. At the time, I was working a security job, so
Right.
I had one of the jobs where you sit at your booth for the majority of the 8 hours.
The 8 hours.
Yeah, just not doing much. So once again, my mind is rolling. It's, I'm getting ideas. So I said it to myself again, let me try putting it on paper.
Right.
So I took the chance of writing a whole chapter. And once I completed the chapter, I went to my coworkers. And at this time, I was writing a story that focused on a young, successful woman.
Right.
So I wanted the audience to be women. So I went to all the female workers to get their response from it. And they were all excited, like, oh, you need to keep writing. This is good. Keep writing. And then that was my push. That was my motivation.
Right.
Next thing I know, I came out with my book. Everything was published. It was ready to go. And once I got one done, that let me know I could do it again. So from then on, I just kept writing. And if I ever had any ideas, I'll start writing.
Right. I like that because most people don't understand like success. Like once you're successful at one thing, like I could do this other thing. You know what I'm saying? So once you were successful at that, you was like, oh, well, shoot, I'm just keep writing books from here.
Right.
Right. So I like that. So I know you started off like at young into the horror, we talked about drama and all that stuff. And then you flipped it. Like you just recently decided I'm going to flip. This is where I'm going into this direction.
Yeah.
So what happened in your life that made you decide like I'm going into this Christian era? This is where I'm going right now.
Well, I had got into, I had joined the church.
Okay.
It actually started up under my uncle's church. He had started his own church and I started attending his church. And as I was attending, I got more focused and I wanted to create a relationship with God. So once I joined the church, it wasn't until years down the road that this happened where I wanted to write the book. But by this time, I had been so active in my church and studying the Bible, reading it front to back and doing the whole nine. Right. So once I was able to do that, it seemed like I was called upon to write on this book. That's how I felt, because I even mentioned that in the beginning of the book, is that I hadn't wrote a book in a while when I did this book. Right. I had been kind of stagnant in my writing. Right. So one day it just came to me, like the idea of writing a book. And it was so unique how it happened, because normally when I'm writing a fiction book, I got to come out with a layout. I got to figure out how the beginning's going to come and then what's going to happen in between and how it's going to end. Right. This, and even with a nonfiction, you most of the information you have already. You know what it's going to be about because it's a true story. It's nonfiction. True. With this one, I didn't know where I was going to go with it. I just felt that I needed to write a book. So then it would happen at spare moments. It would happen here and there where I was doing the writing. Like one day I'll have an idea of what I want the title to be, but I didn't have the content. So what I would do, I'll make a note of the chapter, what I wanted to say. And then later on, say a few days down the road, it'll come to me. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I remember I wrote this title for the chapter. I'll go back. Once I started writing, it was like it was flowing, like I wasn't even the one, I had nothing prepared for it. It was just coming back to me. It was like pulling from a memory of reading the Bible in the past. And I was able to put that content under the chapter. Right. Next thing I know, I had wrote like 6 or 7 chapters. And none of that information was me studying anything. It was just like I was being fed this information as I was writing. It was an amazing experience. And I knew that was my call. It was my time to go into that area. And maybe God was just grooming me up to this point until it was time to actually jump on board and start creating content to speak for him, to deliver information to reach more people. Right. Especially in our society, because you have to reach the people in a certain kind of way. So I want you to tell what part, if you want to tell, but I read the book, so I don't want to tell everything, but it's just the communication of self, of knowing self and understanding self. So that's important. When you decided through the chapters and you're being fed this information, was it like, because a lot of times when you write or when you do reading or whatever, you're speaking to yourself first. So was it like you were speaking to yourself first and then you were just inputting like, okay,
Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like you were learning as you were writing your book.
I would say I would. I'll say I was learning as I was writing it. Because it was somewhat like speaking to myself, but it felt like it was information coming from God. You know, it was like it felt like God speaking to me, or I was just pulling up memories that I had already stored, and God was giving me the ability to pull those memories out. And so, like you say, it was like speaking to myself as I was writing everything down.
Right, right. So after you finished the first book that you went into another direction, went into the Christian direction. After you finished that book, did you let people like did you let some people read it just to see like what do y'all think? You know what I'm saying? Do y'all think
Yeah.
this is good? What was their feedback?
Oh, I got a lot of motivation behind that too, because it blew my mind. Actually, I have to admit, you know, I'm not scared to say it. In certain parts of the book, I broke down in tears because it was like, because like I said, when I was doing it, it didn't feel like it was me creating content. It
Mhm.
was content being given to me to write down. So
Right.
as I was writing it, and then I would go back over the chapter, reread it for myself, and I'm like, man, how did I? You know, I'm thinking like, this is amazing. I'm in another area of writing. So then I would reach out to one of my best friends in the church. We've been friends prior to church, but we
Right.
also grew up in the church together.
Right.
So I reached out to her, and I would call her, talk to her over the phone about it. I would text her about it. I'd be like, what you think about this? And then I'll tell her what I got from it. Like, I wrote this, and
Right.
it ties with this verse, and it was just amazing. Yeah.
That is awesome. That
Yeah.
is awesome. Now, did you get any flack from people because you wrote a few books before you even did a transition? Did you get any flack from people like, why you switching? You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
What you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, wait a minute, I thought we was gonna get the sequel to such and such book.
Right.
Did you
No,
get
I
any?
don't think I did. I don't think
That's
I did at
good.
all. And that was the beautiful thing, because I believe everybody that's ever supported me in my writing,
Mhm.
they've supported whatever I come out with. You know, they give me their honest opinion, but they also give me positive views on whatever I'm doing. So when I came out with this book, of course, it wasn't bashing anyone. It was speaking on, growing in your spirit, growing with God. So
Right,
it was a different route, but in a positive light. So
right.
I didn't get any negative response on it.
Right. What was your what is your favorite chapter in that book? In that the first book, because you got another book that came out too. So
Yeah.
what was your favorite chapter? Like what was the favorite chapter that you said, this like dang.
The one that's coming to mind, because it was some chapters towards the end. Matter of fact, now that I say that, because at first I was gonna say the chapter where I went more personal, where I talk about my health condition, and I dwell into that about how God used me, and he I had a health condition of epilepsy as a child, as an infant. And then my parents, they informed me that when I got about 18 months, close to 2 years of age, it all stopped. The seizure stopped. I was good to go. I no longer took medication. And from then on, I lived a normal life. And that was a blessing. I spoke on how God restarted my life.
Right,
It looked like I was going to have seizures from here on out, starting as an infant. In
mhm,
reality, from 2 years on up, I was able to drive a vehicle,
right,
go to school, go to college, got multiple degrees. I was able to experience life without any of these challenges.
right,
But even though that part is, because it's more personal to me, I think the strongest chapter for me is let God use you,
right,
because that's one of the last chapters in the book that I wanted to close out with, to let people know I'm trying to guide them into understanding that we all got a purpose.
right,
We're seeing this, right in front of us. We got a purpose, things that we need to do. Now it's time. This is the chapter, like it's calling on the reader, like it's time to let God use you.
right.
So I would say that was one of the best chapters for me.
Right. What was your like who I'm not gonna say what was your inspiration, but who is your biggest inspiration? Like if you had to pick an author and you had to say this author inspired me, who would it be?
I honestly would say, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It might be Robert Kiyosaki.
Mhm.
His book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay, I like
Yeah,
that. I like
that had a huge impact on me. I had to read it for a college class. It was
right,
one of the books we had to read, and it didn't feel like work. I was actually reading. It had a lot of influence on my writings in the future because I actually did my own book on finance, but it was a different spin on it.
right,
It didn't tie into what he wrote about, but his book was a huge influence on writing about finance for me.
right. Now that's good. So, if you had to say a person that inspired you to continue to write, because you started at like a young age, but then
Uh-huh.
you kind of like had a break. But if you had to say one person that pushed you, like you got to do this, like this is it, you know what I'm saying? So, who would be your inspiration through that?
Mm. I wouldn't even say push, but I would go back to my father. I would go back to my father because everything I ever tried, if we could go through and sit back my childhood, go back through my childhood, and I talk about my childhood, I've tried everything.
Right,
I've tried all types of ideas and experiments, little small business ideas.
right.
And one of the things that stand out to me is when I was this is at a young age as well. I probably 12 or 13 again. I was big into video games.
Right,
So I will also get the video game magazines, where they got the cheat codes in there and you read up on new games coming out. So
right.
one day I'm after I read the magazine, I thought to myself, I can do this myself.
Hmm.
They create magazines. I'm gonna create my own magazine. Back then, this was before the computers, so we had typewriters.
Right,
So my older sister, my older sister had a typewriter. So I took her typewriter and started. I would hand draw my characters for my magazine, and then
right,
I would add the little speech bubbles, and then use her typewriter to type in the words.
right, right.
Now if you took this paper, there's no way possible that it's the quality of a magazine, far as the print, the whole nine, the hand drawn characters, everything. Right? Most parents would say it's gonna take more work. You're gonna have to print it. We're gonna have to find out somebody that can print the magazine for you, this, that, and the whole nine. I came to my father and I said, Dad, I want to print these and sell them. I got it done. I got the magazine done.
Right.
My father said, okay. He said, okay, back then we were still printing copies at gas stations. Do
Mhm.
you remember that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you would pay like 5 cents a sheet or
I
something like
see,
that.
right.
So we went up to the closest gas station. I printed about 10 copies of my magazine.
Hmm.
It's so, and you remember the printers at the gas station, you would get runs on your paper.
Right,
so so I
right,
so this is nowhere near printer quality, but my father the whole time was standing behind me supporting me. He paid for the print and
right.
everything. And so one day I will always go rent video games. And so one time I went to the video game store and I had my magazine, my paper magazine. And I said, Dad, you think they'll let me sell this here? He said, well, go ask them, see if they let you. He stood back. He wouldn't walk to me to the counter. He wanted me to go do it, which
Right.
is a beautiful thing because it's putting you in a position to do business. Like, you're learning firsthand.
Exactly.
So even though I went to the lady and she said, I'm sorry, we can't allow that. We can't sell stuff here like that. Even though all that happened, it put me in a position that I can do anything. I
Right.
can do anything. So when I got that mindset, when it came time to create a book, I didn't have doubt. I didn't have doubt that I could not, I didn't have doubt that I wasn't able to do it. I just got to put in the work and it's going to happen. So
I
I would say that's my biggest push was my father.
see,
And
Father.
to this day, he still supports anything.
I like your dad. He really pushed you to be successful. That's awesome. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you don't find that all the time, where people really even take the time out to pay attention to their kids, to
Yeah.
push them to do stuff. And then the fact that he made you go ask by yourself, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like people think I'm mean, I'm hard on my kids because I will let them do something. Like I'll stand back and let them go into something by themselves. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because like I tell people, eventually they're going to be men with families.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna be there because don't be calling me talking about me and my whole family got to come stay with you. I'm gonna be like, I live in a 1 bedroom. I don't think so.
Right.
so,
Right.
so I like that. That is what your drive was.
Yeah.
What were some of the barriers that you had? Like some things that kind of like, oh, dang on it, I don't know, or something that kind of maybe distracted you or kind of derailed you a little bit, but you got back together.
You talking about for the latest book, or you're saying in general?
Just in you can do it in general or the latest book. It could be either way. Either way.
Because I don't really think I had many challenges as far as in general when it came to writing.
Mm-hmm.
But this the book that we were talking about, the Marred Clay, it was one of the biggest battles I've ever experienced on a spiritual platform.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't realize it was a spiritual battle.
Mm.
The book that I came out with in June of this year had been I had started writing on it 4 years prior.
Right.
So as I got towards finishing the book, I thought I was done with it. It was a short read. It was even shorter than what it is now. I wrote as a short read. I even mentioned in the book, I'm not attempting to write a big book. I'm only writing what I believe God has me to put in this book.
Right.
So if it was going to be a short read, then that's what it should be.
Right.
So when I finished the book, I thought I was done with it. Everything's good to go. I even had somebody proofread it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had everything lined up, what I wanted to do with the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got so many distractions coming my way. So many distractions. One of them was dealing with my health.
Right.
It was dealing with my health. I was dealing with side effects from the prescriptions I was taking.
Right.
And I was trying to find ways to help with the side effects. And before I knew it, I had completely forgot about my book. Completely forgot about it. And it was one night just before I published it. It was one night I was laying up, and it almost felt like God was talking to me. I was listening to a meditation app because I had got big into meditation,
Right.
calm the mind and
Right.
to help with the side effects.
Right.
And so just so happened, this is why I know it's God. The app was called Abide.
Mm-hmm.
And I take that as saying when they talk about it in the Bible, abide in God.
Mm.
So it said abide, and I was just playing it because I had seen it advertised.
Right.
I woke up in the middle of the night, and the only thing I kept hearing is Jesus is the truth.
Mm.
It said Jesus is the truth. It kept saying that in a meditation form, but it didn't say anything else. It kept saying that.
Right.
And it woke me out of my sleep.
Right.
And at this time, I had other stuff going on. I had got lost, pulled away from Christ. And so it was at a perfect time for God to put me in a position to see what I had got pulled away from, that what was taking me away from my purpose.
Right.
And so when I tracked back into my phone, I was looking up some information, going back way back to figure out what got me off course, because I always put notes in my book. I'll write chapters in my phone.
Right. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'll write chapters in my phone in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going through my notes, and then I come across one note that was one of the chapters in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked and I said, I couldn't even remember when I had stopped, focusing on that book.
Right.
So I went all the way back. Come to find out, I had a whole book waiting on me that had to be published. And when I found the book, I added an additional 4 to 5 chapters onto it, because by this time I'm in a whole nother area.
Right.
I've been faced with a challenge that almost took me completely away from my purpose. So now I'm even more focused on God, and I wrote an additional 4 to 5 chapters to seal it, to put it, to add all the information and have it ready for the reader. So I would say that was the biggest challenge right there.
Wow.
But it made me so much stronger though, because now, like you said, I got another book that's just came out, and I'm telling you now, I've already been writing on the third book. God is feeding so much information to me at one time. It's pushing what I've missed out on, because it's been 4 years.
Right.
So I missed out on so much information. Mm-hmm. I've just been writing left and right, just writing.
Just going.
Yeah.
So now is this a like this is a full-time thing for you? Like you just like I'm just gonna write until I'm done. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I'm just gonna write until I'm done.
yeah.
Where are you promoting your books? Like where are you gonna be doing some book signing soon, like in some different areas? Or what are you thinking?
That is one of my goals. I want to do the book signing. I don't have anything scheduled at the moment. Excuse me.
Right.
But definitely, I do a lot of promoting on the social media, like on Facebook, Instagram,
Okay.
and right now it's myself doing the promoting. I want to eventually invest in getting marketing set up and
Right.
running ads. So I know eventually come, but right
Yeah.
now I'm at the stage where God wants me to be. That's what I believe. I believe I'm at the stage where He wants me to be,
Right.
and as I show myself more and more and show to Him that this is your son, your
Right.
son is back. You
Right.
know, he messed up, got off track, but now I'm back. Here I am, and once I can show God and prove that this ain't just a one-time thing, I'm here. I
Right.
believe God is going to open the doors and say, okay, here you go. You know, He's going to say, okay, here goes some more money to do marketing. Here goes some more avenues to get interviews. Here's some
Right.
more, here's some more books to write. So it's,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Right. It's coming. It's coming.
definitely.
It's definitely coming. Um, so what platforms are your book on? I know you're on Amazon.
Yeah,
So are there any other platforms? Because I know there's a bunch of book platforms now. So are
yeah.
you on any other ones or are you just at Amazon?
I know definitely on Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
And because when I did my publishing through Amazon on this book, and
Uh-huh.
they give you the opportunity to do the expanded network where they go into other platforms as well.
Right.
So, like you said, there's so many small platforms that you can have your book on. So it's multiple. I
Right.
don't know them all offhand. I believe it's over 10 of them on
Okay.
top of the two main platforms that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if per se someone wanted to get a copy signed, do you have a website where they can order directly from you, or do they have to just order from that, like from one of the 10 platforms, the other 10 platforms?
I don't have a website just for that, but if anybody is seeking that, I can do it for them. I can, because they still allow the author to get their own copies, and then
Right.
I can get the copy, have it sent to me, sign it off, and then mail it to the reader.
Mail it to the reader.
So I'm willing to do that. They can contact me through any of my social media accounts, and I have no problem with doing that.
Great. I'm sorry, writing all this stuff down because I post here on like Facebook, YouTube and stuff, but then I have a podcast platform that's like on the iHeartRadio and all the different Amazon radio platforms. And then I
Uh,
post there. And so there I add a little bit more information as far as like so people can go and if they want to ask questions, they'll see it in the description, like Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, and you will, book sign, stuff like that.
okay.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the people? Like anything that I did not ask that you would just like to get out there? Because I know you don't want to talk about the book. Y'all got to go buy the book.
Since you say the book, I do want to mention, like I said, I'm working on a third book.
Mhm.
Starting since I started from the Mara Clay, this will be the third book that I'm working to come out with.
Right.
These books, I believe, represent the Trinity.
Mhm.
If people haven't heard of it before, I believe most people have. They
Right.
call it the Trinity when it comes to God. God is, of course, is Himself. He's our Creator. He's our Lord. He's God. He's
Mhm.
our Father. But
Right.
then we realize that God came in the form of Jesus when
Mhm.
He birthed His Son in order to be a sacrifice for us. That became the second form of God. All is God, but He came in this form for this reason.
Mhm.
When Jesus was preparing to leave, people got afraid, because now their Savior, who they've been following and receiving the word from, was about to leave and
Right.
be a sacrifice. They got afraid, but Jesus turned around and let them know, I'm sending a comforter through my Father. No, the Father is sending the comforter through me,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
you won't have to be worried because the Holy Ghost will always be with you.
Right.
So just so happened the third book centers around the Holy Ghost. So when
Mhm.
I started Mara Clay, I was writing this book just because my love for God, because I even put that on the back of the book. I
Mhm.
only wrote this book to praise God. When the idea and the message came to me about my second book called The Way to the Truth, when
Right.
that idea came, of course, it's centered around Jesus, because Jesus is the way. He even tells us, that's what I mentioned in the book. He tells us that he's the way. So
Right.
that's why I call it The Way to the Truth.
Mhm.
So that centers around Jesus. So we have the Father, the Son, and then we finish with the Holy Ghost to represent the Trinity. So I encourage everybody to be prepared for that when that book comes out.
Tell them the titles of the two books, well, three books, because the other one you're working on. But tell
Yeah.
them the titles of the two that are out now that they can purchase right now, so they can go and look for them.
The first book is called Marred Clay, with a subtitle of Changes in Life.
Mhm.
And I got that idea, I got that from the book of Jeremiah, where they talk about, they give the story of where the potter is working on the clay,
Right.
and the clay keeps coming unformed. It's not how the potter wants it to be. So they go to work at it again.
Mhm.
And that's where I got the vision for this book, is viewing ourselves as clay. Because that's what God speaks in that story, is that
Right.
I can do the same thing with you.
Right.
So that's where I got the title for that, is Marred Clay. And then the second book is called The Way to the Truth.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. And then your third book will be coming out soon. Soon as you
Yeah.
get it done, and then you'll be sharing that one. You can come back on and talk about that one right there too. So,
I would love to. I would
so
love to.
definitely. So I read the Mara Clay. That's the one that you sent me the first time. That book is excellent. It really,
Thank you.
that book really touched my heart. Like it was just like it was. I don't know. It was just. This is. I said this is nice. I was like, this is really nice. And I remember you saying that I wrote most of that book on my phone, and I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know how he wrote this on his phone, because I wouldn't have never been able to do that. So
But
that's a gift.
and see, that's how it was coming to me. That's why I say it was so unusual when I was doing it, because of course now we keep our phones on us 24/7. So
Mhm.
I could be going to the store, I could be outside doing something, and then an idea come to me. Then I'll say that would be a good topic for a good topic to touch on in a chapter.
Right.
I'll put that down, and then, like I say, days later, even weeks later, it'll come to me what to put under that topic, under that chapter.
Right.
And so wherever I'm at that moment, instead of waiting, I just grab my phone, put it in my notes, and jump right on it. And then it's so much easier. I know it seems odd. People are still used to having a laptop or computer and typing with their hands, but I'm so used to typing like on social media. I can have the phone in my hand and type out a whole message with just my one hand while I'm on social media. So I just transitioned to doing it on my notes. And now they got the Microsoft Word app. So I
Right.
get on there and do my typing, and I'm just holding the phone in my hand, typing with my thumb, typing a whole chapter. So
Kudos
it's
to you. Yes. No, no. I don't even really want to text people, so
all
I
right, all right.
know I could not. I'm not a phone person, so
Mm,
half the time I don't know where my phone at. It's on silent. It'll be on personal focus. They done taught me how to do focus on my phone, and my phone
yeah.
is on focus. It's pretty bad because people be like, "I'm calling you," and I be thinking like, "Oh, my phone on focus," So there's no way I could type no book on my phone now.
Wow.
Talk on there, like remind yourself to get some dish soap from you know, that's about all they're gonna get out of me.
And see, I do that all with my thumb. I even make a grocery list. Instead of talking into it, I just type it up on my.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm proud of you for doing that. You have a
Thank
gift
you.
that I do not have. So is there well we'll share with the people like where they could find you, because if they want to follow you, if they want to subscribe to, if you have any pages that you want them to subscribe to, can you share with them where you're located at?
Definitely. I try to keep it standard across the board, so it isn't difficult to find me. So majority of my accounts, you'll see the same name. So on Twitter, it's at Author Maze. On Instagram, it's at Author Maze. And the only ones I couldn't do that with is Facebook. I set up a business account just for my writing, which is Nicholas L. Mays. And then my not Instagram, LinkedIn account is Nicholas Mays.
Okay. Okay. So Arthur Mays and then Nicholas Mays. Either
Yeah.
way, I'm gonna find him. And
Yeah.
then y'all need to go on Amazon and y'all need to buy these books or contact him if you want a special copy, signed and dated. You know, because when people start making it big, you want to have stuff like, hey, I know him. So
Right.
you know what I'm
I'm
saying?
ready
When
for
people get to that point to where it's like you see them and they millionaires and they got movies for their books, you want to be like, I know, I'm gonna keep my copy in my email. So when you make that movie out of your book, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I know him. He was on my show. He was on my show. So one thing that we do on Zip Mouth Motivation Podcast is I like for the people that come on to leave the people with something positive or something that will drive them or inspire them to do whatever. You know what I'm saying?
it.
So it doesn't have to be long, and it can be long, but it's whatever you feel is the inspiration. It could be a quote or anything like that.
I don't have a quote, but I will speaking personally.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe, and I'm going to say I know that God has a purpose for each one of us. God has a purpose no matter what. I'm a perfect example. As you read these books I'm writing, I'm sharing my personal stories within it. So you're going to see that I've been through this and that. I've been through this and that. Because even the story I told you earlier about being attacked in so many different ways,
Right.
you're only being attacked. You're only facing challenges because God has a purpose for you.
Right.
Before I got deep into wanting to write my books, focusing on God, I never had challenges like that.
Mm.
Not at all. Not at all. And the thing is that as long as you're not attempting to go towards God and do anything for God, He has no reason to attack you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just sitting back, got it made, and you don't have to be attacked, 24/7. But if you are one of the people that's facing challenges, if you learn to believe in God, that there is a reason for those challenges.
Right.
Not only are you getting groomed to become something higher and better for God, but you are also becoming a testimony.
Right.
You will be amazed how many lives you changed just by sharing your story of what you went through. Because some people can't handle that battle.
Mm.
Some people cannot handle that battle when they have to go through it.
Right.
So I truly believe if people understand that part, you will obtain anything in life that you want. Just realize that you have a purpose. God has a purpose for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Somebody said we're getting groomed tonight. They said 100. He's been through this and that. They were saying 100, like for real. Okay. Everybody been through a lot of stuff in their life, but I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on and you talking about your book. And we didn't really talk about it because we want y'all to go buy the book. But I promise y'all, it is worth it. Mar Clay, right?
Yes.
Mar Clay.
Yeah.
I read that book personally, and I actually read the book twice because it is an easy read, but it's a good read.
Thank you.
It's a good read. It really is a good read. So I read it twice. And that book in a couple of chapters had me crying. When you were saying you were crying while you was, I was like teary eyed. I was like,
oh, wait.
Lord. I was like, why are you talking? Let me put this down. I'm gonna put the book to the side and come back to it later on. So, but I definitely appreciate you for coming on the show, for sharing a part of you and a part of what you do. And so, one more time before we leave, tell the people where they can find you, where you located at, and then I won't bother you no more.
Oh no problem at all. On Instagram is at Arthur Mays. On Twitter is at Arthur Mays. Facebook is Nicholas L. Mays, and LinkedIn is Nicholas Mays.
Great. So y'all heard what he said. Arthur Mays, Nicholas Mays. Y'all go find him. Look for his books. Tell him the name of your 2 books that you well, you got more than 2. He got more than 2 books, y'all.
Yeah.
He got a lot of books. So, but he came on to talk about these 2 books. So once you look up Nicholas Mays is the name on all of them.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
once you look up that, you might find a lot of books because he does have a lot of books. But the 2 main ones, Mark Clay and
The Way to the Truth.
The Way to the Truth. I wanted to say,
Yeah.
I was going to say the truth is the truth, but The Way to the Truth. The Way to the Truth. You can find those on Amazon right now because that's the easiest way, or Barnes and Nobles if that's what you some people frequent Barnes and Nobles too. So
yeah.
Do you have are you on any electronic platforms? I know sometimes Amazon has electronic platforms as far as like oh goodness, I forget the name of it. It's like books where you can just read the books from your phone or something like that.
Oh, the Kindle.
Kindle. That's what I can't even think of.
Yeah, definitely on Kindle. Yeah.
Okay, so he's on Kindle too. Actually, I read my book. The first book I read that book electronically. So when you sent it to me, I just pulled it up and it's still there. I might read it again. So that book is really good. So I want y'all to read that one first and then go to the other book. And then he got a 3rd book coming out soon that he's working on right now.
Yeah.
So just continue to follow him, continue to encourage him, to give him peace and to give him hope. And you know what I'm saying? Support us because it's big for us to be doing something, especially for a male of us to be doing something,
right,
and to be consistent in what he's doing. So as usual, y'all know I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm back. So I have so many guests for the next couple of weeks because I got to catch up, y'all. I was sick. I was out, but I'm back again. And I'm feeling a little better. Not 100, but I'm feeling a little better. So this was my coming back show, Mr. Nicholas Mays, Author Mays. I appreciate you again. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
And to the rest of y'all, I love y'all and good night.
Good night, everyone.